Good morning, everyone. Hope all of you are doing great. And now we welcome you all to our sixth Indirect Tax Colloquium organized by Will GST and Tax Connect. We are conducting webinars every month. So we request you all to join for the updates every month. Now I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Vivek Jalan. Mr. Vivek Jalan is a qualified chartered accountant, qualified LLB and LLM. He is a chairman ease of doing business committee in Bengal Chamber of Commerce and member at various chambers. He is a regular speaker at various professional forums on various key areas in direct and indirect taxes. I would request you all that during the session, if you have any queries, please write it in the chat box. All questions will be answered at the time of question and answer session. Further, request to mute yourself and keep the video off during the deliberation. And now, before starting the webinar, I would request Samir sir to say a few words. Over to you, Samir sir.
Hi, good morning, Vivek. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this session of Indirect Tax Colloquium. This happens to be the sixth one in the, every month we are having one session, and this is happening to be the sixth session. And apparently, we have some very good judgments in this month to discuss, and I'm sure Vivek will, handle those things. Some of the issues that we are going to discuss is the Supreme Court judgment and the High Court judgment that has come in the previous weeks, and some other amendment that has happened in the various statutes. So, over to you, Vivek.
Yeah. Thanks, Abhi. And thank you, Priyanka. Good morning to all the participants, and thanks for joining this colloquium of our monthly colloquium. Yeah, and as Samir said, that there have been important judgments, important circulars, and many of them, right? And many clarifications, notifications have come in GST, some in customs, lot of developments in DGFT, including the RODTEP scheme. So lots to discuss. Therefore, without wasting time, we will start. Please keep typing your questions in the question box, and as we do always, we'll take all the questions at the end of the workshop. Around we'll keep 15-20 minutes for all the questions. Priyanka, I cannot share the screen. Can you give me the sharing rights?
Yes, sir.
Not able to share the screen. Avik, can you give me the sharing rights, please? Yeah, it's come now. Is my screen visible, Priyanka?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's start with the burning issues, and then we'll go on sector-wise analysis and issues and way forward on all the circulars, specifically the classification related circulars and mining rights, etc. So friends, now the most important judgment which has come over the last few days is the Supreme Court's judgment on the rectification of GSTR 3B and reading down of para number 4 of circular 26. Let us understand first the matter, then what the apex court has ruled, and thereafter the way forward and the issues. So the apex court in the case of Bharti Airtel, it has ruled that the para 4 of circular 26 cannot be read down. Why it cannot be read down? So what was the ask by the appellants? It was that GSTR 3B should be allowed to be rectified in the month in which a rectification was required, rather than para 4 of circular 26 2017, whereby it is mentioned that GSTR 3B can be rectified in the next subsequent GSTR 3Bs. The issue was that Bharti Airtel Limited, it has got some output tax payable during the period July to September 2017. And at that time, GSTR 2A, we all know, was not very much streamlined. And therefore, it said that it could not take the input tax credit. The apex, so it prayed that GSTR 3B for the period July to September 2017, when GSTR 2A was not applicable, that should be allowed to be rectified so that ITC can be taken by it in that period. That is July to September 2017. It's not a case where ITC was disallowed. ITC was allowed to be taken, but in a subsequent period. We all face this, specifically the exporters or people who take the refunds. They can take the credit only to the extent which is available in GSTR 3B. The apex court laid down a very, very important cardinal principle, which it said that the High Court had missed out. It said that what is the mechanism of taking ITC in the GSTR 3B? As per the apex code, the ITC in GSTR 3B should be taken on the basis of your purchase register and not on the basis of GSTR 2A. Mind that this case is specific to that period, July to September 2017. So it did not lay down a doctrine, but it laid down a cardinal principle that ITC has to be taken on the basis of self-assessment as per the purchase register and not as per GSTR 2A, something which the department has been contending, especially before Rule 36(4) has come into question. And it said this is not a new thing. The same was happening in central excise. The same was happening in service tax, VAT, etc. Therefore, it said that there should not be any reading down of para 4 of circular 26, and GSTR 3B cannot be amended in the same period where there was a rectification required. GSTR 3B of one period would be amended by GSTR 3B of the next period or subsequent periods. Friends, now a very important, as I said, cardinal question has been answered, that ITC should be available as per the purchase register and not as per GSTR 2A. Therefore, our submission in this regard is the apex court's judgment, although it went against the Bharti Airtel, but it can be used going forward for those taxpayers where, especially before Rule 36(4) has come, the department alleges that gentlemen, your 2A was not there. So even as per this decision, it is mentioned that the purchase register is the mechanism by which the department should see that ITC has been taken if all the conditions as per section 16, that is your invoice should be available, the tax amount should be paid, you should have filed your GSTR 3B return, and the goods and services should have been received. So if you are satisfying 16(2) conditions for taking ITC, then 2A or 2B at least before the 2019, before Rule 36(4) had come, that should not be seen. Again, the respondents would contend that this is not a doctrine, this is a cardinal principle answered, and it is specific to a particular period. So all of that will remain. But while there is an opportunity in adversity, I would say this judgment can be used at least as a persuasive factor in case there is a genuine right of claiming ITC where it is not available in GSTR 2A. Well, generally we do not, hold that advance rulings have a legislative value for anybody else other than the applicant for the advance ruling, but it does give a view of the department, and the advance rulings have been discussed in the circulars also. Therefore, it does have some value in the sense that it lets us understand what the department is thinking. Therefore, just in contrary to this Bharti Airtel judgment of the Apex Court, the West Bengal advance ruling in the case of Eastern Coalfields Limited, it has ruled just in contrast that if you have taken ITC in the GSTR 3B over and above Rule 36(4), even when Rule 36(4) had not come in, and subsequently GSTR 1 is filed by the applicant, even then, if the ITC gets time barred, it gets time barred and ITC would not be available. This is just in contrast, and well, with my respectful legal submissions in this case is that it can be contested going forward. Therefore, in your GSTR 3B, if you have taken the input tax credit even over and above Rule 36(4), especially when Rule 36(4) did not come into picture before 2019, I think September. Before that, if 3B credit has been taken, you have satisfied all the conditions of section 16(2), then ITC should be available even if the GSTR 1 of the supplier has been filed after the time barring period of the next year, September. Friends, again, a question always is asked. Even there was an advisory by the GST network, I think in October, that before filing the return for September 2021, by 20th of October 2021, you should ensure that the ITC is available in GSTR 2B, so that in future you can, so that if you can take the credit by 20th of October before filing the GSTR 2B. In case the ITC does not reflect in the GSTR 2B by 20th October, and if you have taken the input tax credit in GSTR 3B, then the ITC would be rejected. Our respectful submissions and legal submissions in this regard is, as we have held over the last 1 year or so, GSTR 2B was notified from 1st of January 2021, right? Wide notification 82/2020. However, it was notified while Rule 60 sub-rule 8, right? That there would be a statement called GSTR 2B, which would be showing the ITC available. However, for the purpose of matching the input tax credit or 36(4) for that matter, still our respectful submissions are that GSTR 2A as per Rule 69 is the return for taking the and matching the input tax credit And as per this Bharti Airtel judgment of the Apex Court, our legal submission is that if you have got the purchase invoice, if you have got the purchase register, and if you take the ITC in your 3B for a particular period, it becomes your property. And if all the conditions of 16(2) are satisfied, 2A, 2B or no 2A, 2B, ITC should be your property as per Article 300 capital A of the Constitution, and the vested right cannot be denied. Friends, another burning issue which we have discussed earlier in the case of advance rulings, in the case of Page Industries, is whether ITC is available for sales promotion items or not. Now, I would very briefly bifurcate these sales promotion item into three parts as per three different advance rulings. First, Page Industries. Second, this GRB Dairy Foods. And third is Kanhaiya Realty Private Limited, right? So in Page Industries, the ITC on promotional items by this company, even in the form of mannequins given to the distributors or the dealers or the showroom owners, that was denied on various arguments. There was no conclusive arguments, mind that. It was said that it is not a supply, so ITC cannot be available on the inward supply. It was said it is a gift. It was said it is not an exempt supply. All of these were said. Now, in this GRB Dairy Products Food Private Limited, it is said that sales promotion items like TVs, refrigerators, etc., if you give a target-based incentive as a trade promotion, even if you debit the expenditure in your sales promotion ledger, even then it would be considered to be as a gift, right? They have used two words, reward and gift, right? And they have used it as a synonym. I will come to my legal submissions in this. Third, in Kanhaiya in reality, the West Bengal advance ruling has ruled that even if the supplier takes a small amount in that company, what the supplier who was giving trade promotion schemes in the form of again those TV, refrigerators, etc., he was taking or he was intending to take certain small amounts of money from the recipient. So there was a scheme whereby, say, if you take 100 pieces of a hosiery item, the recipient would get a, say, TV free, right? However, it was not free. It was that it would, the TV's value was, say, 30,000. That industry, that supplier would recover, say, a small amount, say 3,000 rupees, right? So the West Bengal ruling said, yes, gentlemen, it is not a gift. So ITC would be available on the TV. That is the sales promotion item. But as per Rule 27, you have to pay GST on the outward supply. Okay. On the market value of the outward supply, that is 30,000 rupees. Friends, in all the three, my respectful submissions are as follows. Number one, these sales promotion items cannot, by any stretch of imagination, be termed as gift. Gift is voluntary, right? And it is given with love and affection. Sales promotion items are for furtherance of the business and cannot be considered to be as gift. It is not voluntary. It is as per certain scheme which is available. Number two, there is a difference between gift and reward, right? You can give an employee also a reward, right? Is that reward not available, right? You can give an employee a reward, say for selling a sales commission kind of a reward. Is that not deductible as an expenditure, right? Right? If you can give a consultant a reward, right, in terms of money, is that not an input tax creditable amount? So gift and reward, this is a reward, which is rightly said by this advanced ruling of Tamil Nadu in the case of GRB Dairy Food Products Private Limited, and ITC should be available on rewards which are not gifts. Therefore, and it is certainly not a supply outward, it is a supply inward, which is given as an expenditure, a sales promotion item. So it is not a supply outwards. Therefore, our legal submissions in this sales promotion ITC is that ITC should be available totally for these sales promotion items. A very good judgment by the Karnataka High Court is, and it is applicable to many of us over here. Many a times investigations happen under Section 67, then investigations are turned out into search and then into seizure, and many a times under coercion, the tax amount, a certain tax amount is required to be paid by the department. However, while filling up the challan, it is again under coercion. The challan is filled up under Section 74(5), that is voluntary payment. However, if you retract that statement, right, of voluntary payment, and the investigation takes ages to complete, there is an instruction by the CBIC itself that any investigation, search, seizure, or any such activity should be concluded within 1 year. So if the investigation is continuing and it does not end, then you can ask for a refund of the amount paid under coercion just because you have filled up the challan under Section 74, subsection 5 as voluntary payment. It would not mean that the refund under coercion, if you have subsequently retracted that statement, that refund should not be available. It should not mean so. Well, Jyoti Construction, Odisha High Court. This is another important, the cat has been laid within the pigeons by the Honorable Odisha High Court, which has ruled that pre-deposit cannot be made under GST by using input tax credit electronic ledger because it is not a payment of output tax. Well, my submissions in this case is that the output tax under 2 subsection 82 of the GST Act will have to be revisited by other high courts, right? And the matter would be taken to the Honorable Supreme Court in case point comes to that, because even under the erstwhile regime, there were various judgments of the honorable tribunals that Senvat register could be used for payment of pre-deposit. In fact, the CESTAT had issued circular number 15 in 2013-14 that the Senvat credit can be used for making pre-deposits. Therefore, my legal submission is that even under GST, the input tax credit can be used for making the payment of the pre-deposit under GST while filing the appeal. This judgment would be required to be reviewed or revisited going forward. Otherwise, it can cause a huge hardship to all of us, all the accesses across the country. Bill of entry, many a times what happens that the bill of entry is issued in the name of the importer, but from the port itself, the material is shifted to the customer, the final customer. Therefore, in the bill of entry, the name and address of the importer is mentioned and not of the final recipient or customer. Well, that does not mean that input tax credit can be denied. This, while it is a judgment of the CESTAT Ahmedabad in erstwhile service tax regime, but I would feel that it is totally applicable to GST. Well, many a times the refunds cannot be filed online. We are facing such a case that refunds under GST cannot be filed online because certain rectifications in GSTR 1 cannot be made, because in GSTR 1 you cannot rectify more than once. Therefore, because GSTR 1 cannot be rectified more than once, the online refund cannot be filed correctly, or a refund has been filed earlier, approved also, now a credit has come, you cannot file for the refund anymore without any issue at the taxpayer's end. Therefore, due to this technical glitch, the Honorable Allahabad High Court has ruled that Rule 97 capital A can be taken shelter under, and although Rule 97 capital A had come in the early 2018 when the system of refunds was offline, however, that Rule 97 capital A still exists, okay? And manual refunds are still available, although the form RFD 1A, which came through this Rule 97A, that does not exist, but rule exists. Therefore, we are also following up for our one of such cases where due to no fault of ours, due to GSTR 1 issue, the refund could not be filed. I would say in these cases, Rule 97 capital A can be resorted to, and if the department denies the refund, then that can be further taken up with the courts. Recredits amount and other amounts paid back, right? We are again at the case, and this Kerala High Court judgment in the case of Dantara Jewellers will come to the rescue in such cases. Well, the refund has been sanctioned. You have got the refund. However, the CAG auditor comes to the department. He finds certain flaws in the refund. Thereafter, the department show causes you. You pay off the amount in cash. However, your ITC ledger has been already debited. Okay. Therefore, the department cannot recredit the ITC ledger on the ground that the mechanism is not available on the GST portal. In such a kind of a case, the Honorable Kerala High Court has ruled in this case of Dantara Jewellers that technically allowed, not technically allowed, but the refund, the recredit should be made by whatever means possible. And in such a case, we have contended before the department, why not take the recredit by GSTR 3B? Because you never know when this mechanism of recredit or refund of such an amount would come. Friends, there are various other issues, and this PPT would be shared with you going forward, and you can go through these at your own pace. Now we will come directly to the various issues in classification, right? Where there are two important circulars, 163 and 164. 163 is for goods, 164 is for services. There are various notifications, 6 to 10, CGST rate and corresponding IGST, SGST notifications, which have clarified various issues. And well, there is a law or rule that one clarification equal to two doubts. Okay, so these circulars have created, I would say, various doubts. In our YouTube channel, we have already discussed on the case of GST on ice cream supplied by ice cream parlors. There are various other issues and the actions to be taken by industry that we will discuss over the next few minutes of this webcast. First, electronics industry. UPS, we all know now, electronic industry or no electronic industry, we all use UPS in our offices. We know UPS is a backup, a power backup, right? UPS has got various, it has got that outer case, it has got cables, and it has got a battery, a lithium ion battery. The rate of the battery is 28% under 8507. The rate of UPS is 18% under 8504. The circular 163 has clarified that battery supplied along with UPS, even if the battery is supplied separately, even if the battery is supplied in the same invoice and there is a separate line item in the battery, Even then, for battery, you have to charge 28%, and for UPS, you have to charge 18%. Friends, this circular on UPS this has ignored all previous judgments. It has ignored trade parlance. It has ignored the recipient's test under customs. Our legal submissions are that, of course, if you are supplying a battery separately, a UPS separately, it should be 28 and 18. However, if you are supplying the battery with the UPS, then it is the intention of the recipient to purchase a UPS. He is not concerned about battery. What is the battery in that? He needs a power backup. Therefore, it is a system of UPS. It is a composite supply where the principal element is the backup, the power backup which is there, and therefore it should be at 18%. Many a times, even the battery is supplied with the UPS separately, you cannot determine the value, right? Where your seller has sold you UPS and you are just a dealer selling off that UPS. So if you have taken the UPS at say 10,000 rupees, you just make a profit of 500, sell it, going forward to the consumer. So our respectful submissions in this is that again, it would create a lot of problems. While on a prudent basis, I don't know whether you have implemented this, the electronic sector, but on a maybe going forward, you can implement. But the biggest issue is that what about the retrospectively, if you have charged 18% even on the batteries, right? So that becomes an issue. There is no clarification for the earlier periods, which has already happened. For alcohol industry, 3 clarifications are there. Number 1 is the contract manufacturers services to alcohol industry. Well, if you go to entry number 26, that is the job work entry under notification 11/2017 CGST rate for services. You will see this job work entry 26, it has been amended almost 5 to 6 times, right? Now, earlier, the contract manufacturers for the alcohol industry, they were classifying their job work, which was done by them for manufacturing this alcohol under this entry 1F, that is all food and food products, right? Now, a new entry has been inserted, the under 26, that is ICA, that is 1CA, that is services by job work in relation to alcoholic liquor for human consumption. From 1st October, of course, the job work contract manufacturers for alcohol industry, they would be chargeable at 18%. But our respectful submission is that for earlier periods, there is an issue. And in earlier period, while this entry is there and the entry number 4 is also there in 26, which states that for all others, it should be 18%. So in addition to this, entry number 4, for all others, the department has again brought in entry 1CA for only contract workers for job work for alcohol, manufacture of alcoholic liquor, which means that the CPIC itself is distinguishing alcohol with entry 4, and therefore I feel that for the earlier periods, it should not be tinkered with by the department. In many of the places in the circular 163, it is mentioned that for earlier period, what is done, it is done. There should be no refund, while there should be no charging also. So maybe going forward, the department would clarify this. From 1st October, 18%. Before 1st October, clarification is awaited. The alcohol industry should represent before the CBIC for the earlier periods at a benevolent circular that earlier periods would not be recovered. Spent grain. So again, this is a clarification which has created, which will give rise to a lot of litigation. So what is spent grain? It is the grain which is left after crushing and extraction of alcohol. This spent grain is used for animal feed, and it was such classified by the alcohol manufacturers. There was even an order by the Karnataka Commissioner of Commercial Taxes in 2012. There are various judgments of various courts in India that spent grain in the erstwhile regime, of course, that spent grain should be considered as animal feed. However, our GST Council does not feel so. It feels that it should be classified under code 2303, and the 5% GST should be charged on that. Again, this would give rise to litigation. Carbonated fruit juice, again a big problem. What is carbonated fruit juice? Entry, the council has inserted another entry 12B, whereby carbonated fruit juice. So even if their contention is that even if there is some portion of aerated waters or carbonated water, then it would be taxable at 40%, 28% GST and 12% cess. So 40% instead of 12% under fruit pulp. So if you have say 90% fruit juice and 10% carbonated water or even 5% carbonated water, the council's recommendation is that it should be under 12B. This would cause a big issue for the fruit juice industry. So what it stands from the circular is 100% fruit juice, no aerated water, no carbonated water, 12%. Fruit juice with carbonated water, even 1%, goes up to 40%.
Has confirmed this consolidation breakout and
Issue.
daily dip towards the recommended buying range, that is towards 2200 or 2100 levels, may remain as a buying. And
Participants are requested to kindly keep themselves on mute.
Traders and investors, and if you can see the this.
Yeah. So again, another clarification is on EPC manufacturers for solar industry. So we all know now, we have discussed various times in case of solar industry from 1st January 2019, White Notification 24 CGST rate. A composite rate was prescribed for solar EPC manufacturers where 70% of the total value of the invoice would be chargeable as goods at 5% and 18% would be chargeable at 30% would be chargeable as services at 18%. So composite rate of 8.9% would be chargeable on EPC contractors in case of solar industry and other such EPC contractors. Well, the field formation started issuing show cause notices for earlier periods, right? That is prior to 31st of December 2018, and demanding the GST, where the solar manufacturer, the EPC contractors, they had charged 5%. Right. In this case, there is a benevolent circular to this extent, I would say, where it has been clarified that even for earlier periods, the rate would be 8.9%. Well, this is a circular, and there is not as per the notification, and it is considered to be a benevolent circular. But what I think would be challenged going forward is this last para, where it says that even in case you have charged 18% from 1st July 2017 to 31st of December 2018, no refund should be granted to you. Well, it is our legal submission that refunds or no refunds under GST in case of excess charge is as per the doctrine of unjust enrichment. it cannot be guided by a circular. Therefore, if you have charged 18%, the council itself is accepting it should be 8.9%, then refunds should be granted to this sector, right? If the doctrine of unjust enrichment is fulfilled. So again, this can be challenged going forward, is our submission in this case. Inverted duty structure is sought to be rectified for footwear and textiles going forward. However, we have all seen in the circulars that all the time the GST rate is increased for rectifying the inverted duty structure. So in textiles, again, as per the GST minutes of the meeting of the council, then the GST rate for textiles was sought to be increased. Same for footwear. Only a few days back, I was discussing in the textile sector and the footwear sector that representations have been made to keep the GST rate the same for textiles. They are saying that do not convert this, while the rectification of inverted duty structure may benefit the manufacturers, but increase of the rate of textiles at this point in time from to by around 7 to 8%, that would create a lot of hardship and demand would go down in the economy. Same for footwear. In case of metals, the inverted duty structure has been rectified, so to say, by taxing the ores and concentrates also at 18% instead of 5%, right? Packaging industry, well, all corrugated and non-corrugated boxes would be taxed at 18%. Previously, corrugated boxes were 12% and non-corrugated were 18%. Now all would be taxed at 18% going forward. However, in earlier periods, if you have charged 18% instead of 12% for corrugated boxes also, then there would be no refund which would be allowed. Again, this non-granting of refund in case the duty has not been passed on, that is an issue which may be challenged going forward, right? Even for the boxes, right, the fiber drums, it is mentioned that now from 1st of October it should be 18% only. However, before 1st of October, no refunds would be allowed if 18% was charged instead of 12%. Automobile and transport industry retrofitment kits for vehicles used by disabled, right? Only for vehicles used by disabled, the retrofitment kit would be 5% and not 28%. So what are the issues? Two issues are there. Number one, and most important, is this retrofitment kit should be charged as a separate line item in the invoice. Value of the retrofitment kit would be disputed going forward. Therefore, do not keep an artificially high value for the retrofitment kit. Number two, the usage of the retrofitment kit by disabled or by other than disabled, that could be contended by the department. So there should be some bifurcation between retrofitment kit used by disabled and other than disabled, right? Because again, this can be disputed by the department. So our suggestion to the industry is and our clients is that create two different codes in your SAP or whatever ERP you are using, one for disabled, one for not for disabled. And accordingly, the rate should be tagged in that, because this is a high amount. 23% is not a small amount. And in case in future it is disputed by the department, it would be a big hardship on the industry. In case you are exporting goods by vessel or air from India to outside India, that freight would be continue to be exempt till 30th September 2022. It was exempted till 30th September 2021, I would say. It is high time that this would be notified rather than clarified by means of circular every year. Grant of, now this is again a contentious issue. Grant of national permits to goods carriage vehicles or payment of fees would be exempt from 1st of October 2021, would not be exempt till 30th of September 2021. Friends, national permit for goods carriages, it is in the form of a government fees, right? If that is liable to tax, then why not late filing fees for GSTR 3B late filing? Why should it not be liable to GST? Why should MCA fees, ROC fees not be liable to GST? Well, these are contentious issues. In fact, from this exemption from 1st of October, there should be a clarification on this further, I would say. Otherwise, this can open a huge Pandora's box of litigation going forward, and all kinds of fees, even your GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, ROC, late filing fees, all of this would be taxed going forward by the department, or at least show causes we can get. Biodiesel supplied to OMCs for blending with diesel, that would be taxed at 5%, right? Railway parts, railway locomotives, that would be taxed at 18% now, right? So various rate notifications have come out on this, notification 6 and 7, 2021, central tax rate. Overloading charges at toll plaza, again a contentious issue, whether it would be exempt as toll plaza or it would be taxed as government fees under reverse charge. That has been clarified, and rightly so, that it would be taxed like toll plaza, it would be exempt under GST. Renting of vehicle, the vehicles which are given to state transport authority undertakings and local authorities is covered under giving for hire. Now, this circular can be very beneficial to settle other litigations where the department itself differentiates between giving for hire and a rental, giving on rent. I have seen for various industries there are show causes not only in GST, even in erstwhile regime. They say that no, when you give for hire, when the vehicle is in command or in control of the recipient, then it would be taxed. It would not tantamount to rental, right? In this circular, it is clarified that giving on hire would be taxed as rent only, and that would continue to be exempt. Printing industry, again, pens would be taxable at 18% up from 12%. Printing, various kinds of printing, so all kinds of printing by and large are now 18% and not 5 or 12 as earlier. So a big change for printing industry, our printing costs would go up. Various clarifications for the agri-business. Tamarind seeds only for sowing, that would be taxable at 5%. All other tamarind seeds would be exempt. Again, now it gives rise to an issue. How does the supplier, you see, distinguish, or how does the supplier ensure that these tamarind seeds are for sowing and not for other purposes? Well, it is our advise that on the invoice you should mention as a supplier that these seeds are for sowing purposes, so as to avoid litigation going forward. Fresh versus dried fruit and nuts. Fresh fruits and nuts, right? Fresh nuts, almonds, etc. Only to the extent of chilling those fresh nuts, they would be considered as fresh and exempt. Otherwise, if any activity like freezing the fresh nuts or drying the fresh nuts, that is done on those fresh nuts, it would be taxable, right? At 5 or 12%. So the question is that what is the difference between chilling and freezing? How would you distinguish whether the fresh nuts have just been chilled and or it has not been frozen? I understand from the experts in this industry is that for nuts, it has to be first boiled and processed before it is frozen and ready for human consumption. So possibly this industry should take care so that in future there is no dispute on this. Coconut versus copra, right? The copra is the coconut, the, 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 the coconut fruit part, right? Which is dried inside the coconut shell itself and it is taken out in a dried form. That is copra. If that is there, it is taxable as copra and not as coconut. That has been clarified and I feel rightly so. Henna powder, henna leaves, they are taxable at accordingly. That has been clarified. Scented sweet supari or betel nut product, it will be taxable. And elaichi, right? Flavored cardamom seeds, they would be taxable at 18%, not 5%. Under 2106, well, our respectful submission is that again it would give rise to litigation. Why should it not flavored cardamom seed? Why should it not be taxable as a spice under 0910? Right? Why should, and if you see in this clarification, it has just been mentioned that there is a value addition and therefore it would be taxable at 18%. Why not 5% as spices? Right? Various amendments for the pharma industry as far as classification is concerned. By and large, all pharma items would be taxable at 12%. That has been clarified. Amusement industries. So 3 distinguishments have been done for entry to amusement forums, race clubs, casinos, sports events. Only 3 entries are taxable at 28%. Otherwise, all are taxable at the lower rate of 18%. Right? That has been clarified. So now I think this dispute should be put to rest. Works contract for charitable organizations. So if you are a charitable organization under 12A, you are a chamber of commerce, you are a religious organization or any other such organization which are registered under 12AB, 31st of March 22 under Income Tax Act is the last date for registration under 12AB. Therefore, please do get yourself registered under income tax for works contract or construction for your buildings to be liable to GST at 12% and not 18%. So all charitable organizations, I would say, if you are getting any works contract done or a construction done, generally these contractors charge 18%, which is not even creditable. So there would be a 6% saving in GST. So please keep vigilant on any construction activities done. Right. So various other amendments and rate issues have been discussed in these circulars. Intellectual property rights, all intellectual property rights, including IT software related IPR, would be taxable at 18% as services under Schedule 2. Friends, in our legal submission, there are 2 kinds of transfers of IPR. Now, there would be a question whether it would be goods or it would be services, because IPR transfer is appearing in goods as well as services schedule. It is important. Why? Because although both rate are now 18%, but it is important because if you are classifying it as a service and if your recipient is getting a refund under inverted duty structure, it would not get a refund of this to the extent of this amount and it would be a big problem for them. So now what is IPR, transfer of IPR, whether it is goods or service? Our legal submission in this is If it is an assignment or permanent transfer of IPR, it is goods. If it is a temporary transfer of IPR, it should be classified as a service. Various relaxations, ITC 04 would be annual for less than 5 crore suppliers, more than 5 crores, it would be half yearly. Interest under GST, a big litigation, even after the amendment of section 50 subsection 1, it is now clear, right? And our stand has been vindicated, which Tax Connect is saying from the very beginning. If any payment of GST has not been done through cash ledger, that is late payment, then no interest should be chargeable. Only if the GST has been paid through cash ledger, only then interest would be chargeable under GST. There are various writ petitions still lying pending. Many of our writ petitions for our clients are lying pending, and the department is disputing it in various ways. But our legal submission is that, going by the intent of not only the courts but even the CBIC, it is our submission before the department that all these rates should be suo motu withdrawn, and the dispute should be kept at rest. There is this principle, the doctrine is very, very clear that only if there is a late payment of GST by cash, then interest would be applicable. Otherwise, interest would not be applicable. Right. Friends, last item is GST on the mining industry. GST on as a reverse charge on royalty paid by the mining industry. The Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Lakhvinder Singh versus Union of India recently has ordered a stay on all payments of GST under reverse charge on royalty for the mining sector. I will just give you our legal submissions briefly on this point before concluding. Friends, first is whether this royalty on mining, whether it is a tax or a service. Royalty on mining is chargeable by the state governments as per entry number 50 of list 2 of the Constitution, right, as a tax. And therefore, our first contention is that royalty on mining industry is a tax and not a service under entry number 50 of list 2 of the 7th schedule to the Constitution. The same has been upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court 9-member bench in the case of Mineral Area Development Authority and India Cements, right? So it is already clear from these. Next, even considering it a service, right? There are two parts. From 1st July 2017 to 31st of December 2018, where by notification 11/2017 CGST rate, mining was under item number 17 for leasing services. If it is a royalty on leasing of the products which are taken out of the mines, right? If this should be taxable at the same rate of central tax applicable for supply of such goods. So if from the mines you are extracting stone chips, which is taxable at 5%, the royalty should be taxable at 5% and not 18%. Thereafter, it was amended and this was taxable at 9%. So from 1st January 2019, even if you say mining my royalty is a service, even then it should be taxable at 18% from 1st January 2019. However, as per this circular, right, 164, it is clarified that it was never the intention of the council to tax mining at 5%. It is to be taxable at 18%. Well, this in our legal submission may not be the independent, very correct stand. It is a revenue bias stand, and already it has been contested before the apex court. The Jharkhand High Court, I am told, even today morning, the taxpayer called me, and even I am told that the Jharkhand High Court has also granted a stay in this matter of collection of GST and service tax on royalty on mining, right? So friends, in case of DGFT, there are various amendments. The RODTEP scheme has also been notified on 17th of August 2021. Various important, so November and December 2021 would be very important for the exporters. One, you have to implement the RODTEP scheme, right? So important is that on all your shipping bills from 1st January 2021, from the date when RODTEP was effective, although it was notified on 17th of August 2021, but from 1st January 2021, the intent of taking RODTEP benefit should be ticked on the shipping bills. Otherwise, RODTEP benefit would not be available. Now, again, this is a weird kind of a requirement, I would say, in my opinion, because why do you need to take on every shipping bill and intent whether we would take RODTEP or not? Just take a declaration like an LUT in GST that the taxpayer or the exporter is going to take RODTEP benefit, and that's it. In case the taxpayer wants to withdraw it, let him withdraw that declaration, and from that, RODTEP would not be available. So nonetheless, this has not gone down well with the DGFT and specifically the Ministry of Finance, and they are of the view that on every shipping bill you have to take. Number two, those exporters who are taking the benefit of advance authorization, they would not get RODTEP. However, those who are taking the benefit of drawback, they would be eligible for RODTEP. Again, in our opinion, it is weird as to what is the difference between drawback and advance authorization takers. However, that is the scheme as of now. Therefore, a decision needs to be taken whether you would go ahead with advance authorization or you would want to go with RODTEP scheme, right? So various other issues are there, various other points are there which you need to keep in mind to implement this scheme. On our YouTube channel on YouTube, we have a video very soon. It would be there on Will GST also, and you can go through that. We have discussed in detail over there the RODTEP scheme and the actions to be taken by you. In case of MEIS and ACIS, very important, 31st of December is the last date to apply. If you do not apply for MEIS and ACIS, then it would be time barred after 31st of December. Friends, this MEIS, ACIS, RODTEP, whatever scheme of DGFT for exporters, whatever you may call it, these are all budgetary schemes. It is, in my language, I say these are first come, first serve schemes. Budget gone, scheme over. Okay. Therefore, we have seen this in the past. Therefore, all the exporters, please, very quickly, you should file for RODTEP when it comes, the procedure comes, ACIS, MEIS, right? To take the benefit of this scheme and to take your share of scripts and reimbursements, right? In case of RODTEP, very, very important is that you keep on reviewing for trade associations. It is very, very important that for your association, for your products, you should always keep on representing before the DGFT if you feel that the rate is low, because the rate of RODTEP can be changed anytime in the current year. If budget is over, you cannot even carry forward the RODTEP. The rate can be reduced anytime in a year. The rate can be made zero anytime in the year. So all exporters and associations, please be very, very vigilant on this scheme for RODTEP going forward. Anti-absorption review for all those industries, especially these solar cell industries and other so many anti-dumping and countervailing duty notifications have been issued. So if you feel that your anti-dumping duty or countervailing duty, specifically in the case of certain countries, they have been nullified by reducing the rate of those products by the corresponding country, you can apply to the ministry, and the rate would be reviewed, right? The anti-dumping duty or the CVD would be reviewed going forward. For courier companies, it is a very important notification 8586 that courier companies now every year, 2 years, they do not get to re-register themselves like in the past. Once registered, then always register until unless you want to suspend or you are suspended by by your principal commissioner for not carrying on any activity for more than 1 year. So friends, with this, I end my deliberation over here, and we would take up questions in the chat box. In case of any other queries also, do keep on typing in the chat box, and we would take the questions. Just a second. Okay, so Mr. Krishnendu Prasad Ray is saying multiple tax rate invites complication, it should be avoided. Yes, Mr. Prasad. However, India is a very complicated country with many products, many services, almost 15% of the world's population, and a single rate I would not see going forward. Also, it would be there. And thereafter, of course, but the government has its revenue pressures. Okay, Mr. Prasad has various suggestions. Mr. Sanjay Shah says we have multiple GST numbers in the same state. Hence, we have decided to run business into a single GSTN. Accordingly, before merging Unit B into Unit A, we have disclosed input tax credit of Unit B as per the invoices raised by the suppliers. Now we have deficiencies of ITC to the extent of supplier deposited tax into the parent unit GSTN. Please let us know how to deal with the difference of ITC between 3B and 2A. Mr. Shah, if you can unmute yourself and discuss your question, because somehow I am not able to comprehend your question.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking this my query. Issue is that before merging, we have disclosed our input tax credit. Accordingly, invoices received by the respective units. Now, some of the suppliers because of, I don't know whether any issue, they have deposited tax into the parent company instead of the respective company. So therefore, we have a deficiency in the unit B, which will be merged with the unit A.
So, if I understand correctly,
Mhm.
you have two units in the same state. You have taken vertical wise registration A and
Correct.
B under GST. Now, some of your suppliers, you are going to merge it going forward, but that is not the point here. The point here is currently some of your suppliers who have supplied to unit B have billed in the GST number of unit A.
Correct, sir.
Is that so?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Mr. Shah, first let me tell you, even for unit A, the input tax credit would be disallowed going forward. Okay, because it is not a receipt of goods or services by unit A. It is a receipt of goods and services by unit B.
Okay.
So you need to get these invoices amended by the suppliers with the GST number of your unit B.
Mhm.
Payment in unit B by cash or input tax credit, that is a secondary matter. But first, this ITC would be completely lost if you don't get your this amended. My
Yeah.
suggestion.
Ji, please,
Yeah,
please,
tell me.
please carry on, sir.
My suggestion would be to ask your suppliers to amend this. It may take some time if it is not time barred to show it in the GSTR 2A, but you create a purchase register and take the input tax credit before it is time barred in unit B. The question is the timing difference, right? Your
Correct.
ITC may be available after, say, 1 month when your suppliers do all of this and you have an output tax liability today. If you feel that your suppliers are going to amend those invoices on the same date of the invoices, you make a list of that and you take a letter from the suppliers that they're going to amend it, and you can set off the ITC with your output tax. However, this is subject to the risk that going forward, if they do not do it, then it would be a problem. Another problem in this case standing today is this rule 36(4), right? That would be litigated by the department that it is not reflecting in your 2A, but you have taken the credit based on the purchase register.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Ajay Rane, he says, sir, request you to explain once again on interest slide. Okay. Mr. Rane, see, there are two subsections for interest under GST. Subsection 50, subsection 1 and 50, subsection 3. 50, subsection 1 was amended by this Finance Act. 50, subsection 3 was not amended. 50, subsection 1 states that in case there is a late filing of GSTR 3B or there is a late payment of GST, then interest would be applicable only on the payment through cash, right? So for example, your GSTR 3B is delayed by say 1 day and your total output tax liability is 1 crore. Out of that 1 crore, in your input tax credit ledger, 50 lakh rupees is standing. So you have to pay 50 lakh rupees by cash. You paid it by cash on 21st of the month. So that 1 day of delay, how much of interest should be charged for late payment of taxes? The department contended that the interest should be on 1 crore. The taxes payers contended it should be on 50 lakh, that is payment through cash only, because ITC was available and there is no loss to the department on the 50 lakhs available in the ITC ledger. That has been put to rest with retrospective amendment that only interest in these cases would be liable on the cash component, that is cash payment. However, the department thereafter, many field formations, they started issuing notices under 50 subsection 3. 50 subsection 3 states interest in case of mismatch between your 2A, 2B and ITC taken in the ledger, 3B ledger, right? So even in that case, the department said that no interest would be applicable on the gross amount. Same situation, the taxpayers contended interest should be applicable on only the cash component. That has again been upheld, and the amendment would be correspondingly made. In certain cases which we are handling, there is again a third case where a transitional credit has been wrongly taken by few of our clients, taxpayers, and subsequently they have reversed that wrong transitional credit through the ITC ledger only. There was sufficient balance in their ITC ledger. Again, the department contended that this does not fall under 50 subsection 1 or 50 subsection 3. So interest will be payable even though you have reversed the ITC from your credit ledger. Well, our respective submissions are two. Number one, if it does not fall under section 50, then how can you demand an interest, right? Number two is that interest is compensatory. The same principle applicable for 50 subsection 1 or 3 should be applicable in this case also. To sum up, interest, whenever GST is delayed paid or GST which should have been payable is paid after some time, and if you have ITC in your ITC ledger, and if you are paying that output tax through ITC ledger, interest should not be demanded. Only if you are paying the output tax delayed or afterward, after some time through the cash ledger, only then you are liable to pay interest. I hope it is clear. Mr. Rajkumar is saying, can you provide video recording of the same? Yes, Mr. Kumar, Will GST would be circulating the link, and this video would be available after 1 week, within 1 week, I would say, on our YouTube channel. Mr. Vinu R. Prabhu, saying very good class. Thank you, Mr. Prabhu. Thanks for your good wishes. Mr. Ajay Agarwal, service provider provided by Game Zone Play Store in the mall, what would be the tax rate? 18%. It is now absolutely clear, Ajay ji. Mr. Ashish says in the 45th council meeting, the wrongful availment of ITC and not utilization has not been notified yet or not? Yes, it is not been notified as yet.
रात को 5 बजे 3 बजे है ना फ्लाइट? 5 बजे कोई
Kindly please mute. Yeah, so I was muted. Miss Usha says, is there any way to claim refund of late fees paid for the period December 19 to December 20? Miss, for filing GSTR 3B and 1. Miss Usha, late fees, had it not been paid, you could have taken the benefit of amnesty scheme. Now it has been paid, there is no mechanism for refund. Mr. Praveen says any property if taken on rent from NRI will be treated as import of service, and IGST RCM is applicable or not. No, Mr. Praveen. under section 13 of the IGST Act, place of supply would be in India. It would be taxable as CGST and SGST. Mr. Agarwal again, Ajay ji says some amendment has come on 25th October for permanent transfer of IPR in service notification. Yes, Mr. Ajay, we discussed this. So it is said that for permanent transfer of IPR also it is there in the service notification. It has been clarified also by the council in the circular 163 that it can be taken in the service as a service. However, the fact remains that it is still the entry is there in the goods notification also for permanent transfer of IPR. Therefore, it was my conclusion that for permanent transfer, it can be regarded as goods. For temporary transfer, it can be regarded as service. Mr. Himanshu says if in GSTR 3B return for the month of September is filled after due date for a particular financial year wherein we have paid ITC of some invoices of previous year which are not claimed, can the GST officer deny such ITC claim? So, Mr. Himanshu, yes, the officer can deny this because under 16.4, what is mentioned is that the time barring period for ITC is the due date for the return for 30th of September, right? So the term due date comes in the way that GST officer can dispute this. However, this matter can be challenged before the Honorable High Court. Mr. Amit Balotia says many times rupee 1 scheme as sales promotion are running in the store, whether they claim ITC. Mr. Amit, as I said that it is our view 1 rupee or no 1 rupee. Pre-sales promotion, I feel that is for furtherance of the business. It is not a gift. It is not an outward supply and hence ITC should be available completely on this. Mr. H.S. Prasad says the transfer of IGST and CGST amount lying in cash ledger is allowed to be transferred to other registration, though it is notified but not notified, but still there is a mechanism to implement this. It is not notified, sir. So please hold on. Let it get notified. Mr. Om Narayan, sir, PPT, yes, Mr. Narayan, the PPT would be shared with you by Bill GST and we would be sharing the PPT. Mr. Sunil Nath says there is GST payable on ISD office, which address already declared as additional place in our existing normal registration. Now should we take new registration for ECM payable? Well, if I understand, you have added your ISD place as a registered place of business in a normal registration. If that be so, my submission is that it is not the right stand. ISD is a completely different registration with a different return. So
Hello.
ISD is ISD.
Hello. Sir, as per ISD provision, law says that if RCM is payable on that office, then in that case we have to take a separate normal registration. But in our case, already we have declared that office as a normal registration in the state, whole state. But for the time being, we have taken a separate registration. So
Sir, I have discussed this in various forums over the last 4 years. Many of the times, many companies, large organizations are taking the route of cross charge, which possibly you may or may not be taking, or your ISD credit you could be taking in your normal registration, right? Disclosing it as an additional place. In this case, my legal submission is that this ITC can be disputed by the department. For example, suppose you have your head office registered in Karnataka and you have 10 other GST numbers and your GST auditor, now there is no GST audit. So let's say your statutory auditor, he gives you a GST bill and you take that in your normal registration So Karnataka is losing GST. However, for GST, statutory auditor is giving the service to all the GST numbers. But which state is losing money? It is only Karnataka. So it is my submission that you must take an ISD registration immediately, and all of these common services you should take it through ISD registration.
No, sir, my question was already we have taken IIT registration, but how can we pay the RCM liability of that ISD of his?
Yeah, so that is a practical difficulty. You can pay it through, so that is also discussed in rule. I'm not remembering that rule. The sub rule is 4A. So that can be paid through your normal registration, and thereafter it can be transferred to ISD. It is already notified. To that extent, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Ashish Singh says, would we apply for multiple GST in one state for same plan? Well, should you apply or should you not, Mr. Ashish? That depends upon your case. Whatever is your case, you have to see and take a decision accordingly. Mr. Chandrahas says, sir, regarding import of service, if the invoice is raised in advance for 22, will credit be available now immediately? No. Credit should not be available on this because as per 16.2, you should have received the service. So while you have to pay the tax, however, you have to defer the credit till you get the bill and the service is actually rendered. Mr. Chandrahas says again, RODTEP scheme was notified from 1st January. Then what is the fate of MEIS benefit until 31st December 2020? As I said, time barring period for MEIS till 31st December 2020 is 31st of December 2021. So portal is open, DGFT portal. Please apply for MEIS till 31st December 2020 by 31st of December 2021. From 1st January, RODTEP would be available.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Mr. Bhavesh says, what is the difference between ISD and cross charge? Well, Mr. Bhavesh, we have discussed this for so many times. However, cross charge ISD is you take a separate number, take the input services in your ISD and distribute it on the basis of proportion as mentioned under section 20. However, for cross charge, you do not take, this is not notified. My respectful submission is that cross charge is not as per GST law, but it is being followed by some companies. They are taking the input credit in their head office and they are making a bill from the head office GSTIN to other states, and this is called cross charge. Would be, Mr. Ajay says, would be grateful if we can get some analysis or impact of Supreme Court decision in case of Bharti Airtel. Mr. Ajay, I think you joined a little late. I have discussed the Bharti Airtel judgment first thing in this session, and I have given my views on that. The PPT would be shared with you, and you can see it. Mr. Anthony says, as the payment for GST and royalty for mining is stayed by the Apex Code, do we require to pay GST and RCM for 17-18 onwards? Mr. Anthony, as I said, while the GST and royalty has been stayed, so it is stayed from the very beginning, even for the period 17-18, it is stayed. Mr. Ketan says, what is the amendment for information technology on GST rate? Information technology we discussed on the transfer of IPR for information technologies, that would also be taxable at 18%. Mr. Sunil Nath says interest will be applicable on cash payment. It is before demand or after demand. Before or after, all are the same. Before and after both, interest would be payable only on the cash component. Mr. Ashok Jha, what is the rate of GST on sale of entire wind energy machine generating electricity from wind, as and where applicable? It is 5% or 12%. Mr. Jha, offhand, it is not possible to remember the rates, but sale of, if we are saying sale of wind energy machine, it is a goods, and you have to see the rate of the goods. Possibly it is 5%. I am not very sure, but you have to see it. Possibly all clean energy goods are 5%. However, if it is an EPC contract, including civil work, then you have to see what is whether it is goods, service, or whether the rate in case of solar panels that would be applicable in this also. Mr. Balkrishna says whether it is when is the SEIS DGFT portal to be obtained for 1920? Mr. Balkrishna, it would be open very soon, very soon, because the time barring period has come. Mr. Ashok Jha says why the rate is increased when government says to give incentives for green energy. Well, Mr. Jha, the government says a lot of things, and however, the finance ministry works in one way. Mr. Bhave says when we paid GST in part on various dates and finally filed 3B. Okay, on various dates. So, Mr. Jha, the department's contention is that GSTR 3B filing date, that is the date of payment. Payment in cash ledger will not be taken as payment. Therefore, the department has show cause, but well, cash ledger balance is also a balance available with the department. So on that ground, the show cause can be contended. Mr. Ashok Jha says government has amended 84 and 85 into Schedule 2 from October 1. Yes. So we have answered all the queries. Thank you very much to the participants for joining this. Next month again, we bid adieu till we meet again next month. Thank you very much.
Hello, sir. Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Sir, actually, some consultant, as per some consultant, interest is chargeable on cash basis. That is before demand. So please recheck, and next meeting you can share after that.
Sir, it is very clear. You can send me a mail on this, right?
Okay.
We will give you our opinion in the matter.
Okay. Okay.
So over to you, Samir and Priyanka.
Thank you, Vivek. Very interesting session, and you have apparently have covered everything that happened in the previous month, and all the important amendments and the case law. So so Priyanka, over to you. You can conclude the session.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Vivek, sir, for your valuable deliberation. And thank you, everyone, for joining. We will be conducting this kind of webinar every month. Hope that you will be joining and make a session successful, and we will be sharing the PPT with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.